What's up, everybody? It's your favorite show, Get a Bucket. I'm your host, Trey, and as usual, I hope you're all having a wonderful, wonderful day. Now, today, we're going to talk about the 2025 top NBA matchups, at least for myself. But before we do that, please make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, comment, tell anyone about the show. I'm trying to get the ratings up a little bit, just a little bit. But like I said, today, we're going to talk about the 2025 top matchups of the WNBA. At least mine. So, y'all might be wondering what matchups are we going to do. I'm going to give about 10. All right. Reason why, I feel like that's a good number. We'll track them along to season 2, see how these matchups progress. But for right now, let's go ahead and bring up the listing, shall we? So, with number 10, I'm going to mention my return games first. So, let's start it off with the Dream versus let's start at Dream versus Mercury and Mercury versus Wings, right? Because we have Brittney Griner's return to the Mercury, and then we also have Satou's return to the Wings. So, Mercury are for both of these return games. There's one more return game I'll mention, but we're going to save that for a little bit later. I will say that. But these two games right now, these two players, they played with these teams all their career. More so BG, because she's been there, since 2013, 2014? Woo! That's a while, right? So again, seeing her return for the first time, got to be solid. And keep in mind, too, it's not like the Mercury aren't good. They got Satou Sabally. They have Alyssa Thomas. They have Collier. It's going to be a solid big three going up against the Dreams big three, which also encompasses Ryan Howard and Alicia Gray. But when we have Satou returning versus the Wings, we're going to see a big three that's newly formed but has some experience, right, individually, versus a Wings team that's still trying to figure out their own identity. They just drafted Paige Bueckers, Dearica still over there. So that might be a good battle to watch. Might favor the Mercury. But on that Mercury versus Dream, I don't know. I could favor the Dream for that one. We'll see. But those would be good games to watch. So again, those are my matchups, the return games. There's some other ones, but for right now, we're just going to say that one. We're going to say those two. So moving on to number 9, we have Aaliyah Edwards battling Napheesa Collier and Breanna Stewart. Breanna Stewart and Napheesa Collier. That's what it's reading right on the screen, right? Well, the reason why I have them there, the Unrivaled League. Ladies and gentlemen, if y'all watch the Unrivaled League, it was a good one, so definitely go tune in if y'all haven't. I've talked about it before, so go peep if y'all haven't already listened to those. But Aaliyah Edwards, who was just a rookie last year, beat Breanna Stewart in the first round. Wild, right? Like ridiculous. Scored. Did Stewie score? Oh, that's what we talking about. And then she gave Napheesa Collier a run for her money in the best of 3. Ladies and gentlemen, Aaliyah Edwards went the distance with Napheesa Collier. And those are two of the best players, two of the faces of the game for me, of the WNBA. We got to see if it's the same level of expectations come WNBA season. So again, that's my matchup to watch. Aaliyah Edwards versus Napheesa Collier and Breanna Stewart. I'm sorry, Breanna Stewart and Napheesa Collier. That's how I have it on the screen. My bad. Now let's move it up to number 8, because this one gets personal, ladies and gentlemen. Kelsey Plum versus Paige Bueckers. Yeah, I went there. Because if you know, right? But as a Sparks fan, I just knew we were going to get Paige Bueckers. And the fact that we did not hurts me. Congratulations, Dallas Wings. Because, y'all lost Luka Doncic, Dallas. And they figure, we can't give them Luka and Paige. That's starting to make me believe in script writing, ladies and gentlemen. Because we could have gotten Luka and Paige. Should have had at least Paige. But they weren't going to do that to Dallas fans. So as a result, you guys got Paige. But Kelsey Plum, the Sparks got Kelsey Plum because we didn't get Paige Bueckers. So seeing who ends up becoming the better player over time, that's going to be huge. Because imagine as Sparks fans, we look and say, damn, what could have been? I'm saying that now, and I say we settled for Kelsey Plum. And I like Kelsey Plum as a player. I love Paige Bueckers as a player. But again, that's going to be interesting. Sparks present versus our possible future. But that's enough about that, because I could talk about that for a while. Oh, my gosh. Number 8 was Kelsey Plum versus Paige Bueckers. Let's move on up to 7, right? 7 is Sparks versus the Aces. That's right. It's not biased either. Here's the reason. Sparks actually do have a good amount of talent this year, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. We got some talent this year. But Here's the thing. Kelsey Plum and Dearica Hamby used to play for the Aces. So seeing that matchup, you got to wonder, because they were traded away. Is there some resentment? Are they going to play with a little bit more edge? I like to see that. Then it's a good marker for Sparks fans too, because the Aces are contenders. So we get to see what we looking like at our best. Because you got to imagine Dearica and Kelsey are going to play at their best, right? Specifically for these games. So again, Sparks versus Aces. I'm tuning in, not just because I'm a fan, but because of the storylines that are following. Now, moving on, we got to talk about my number 6 matchup. Fever versus the Dream. The Indiana Fever versus the Atlanta Dream, ladies and gentlemen. That could be a good one. Reason why I say this, there was a listing for top fantasy matchups or players, right? And the Dream had 6 of the top 50, and the Fever had 5 of the top 50. They were the top 2 highest teams in the WNBA, at least in terms of fantasy ranked players, right? In the top 50. Well, they also boast good teams. The Fever just acquired a lot of talent, right? They have a strong starting 5, and the bench doesn't look bad. And then the Dream, they have good depth, and they have a quality big 3 and dominating players along the way. Why not watch these matchups? Because, again, both teams could surprise teams like the Liberty, teams like the Aces. So this matchup could start to say, hey, maybe there's a new sheriff in town. And who knows, we might even have a new rivalry. Let's figure that out. But I got to see this matchup. And again, we could be talking about 2 contenders between these 2. But let's move on up to the next matchup that I got, which is Angel Reese versus Caitlin Clark. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Will the rivalry continue? Or is it just a pastime? Because we do expect the rivalry to add some energy to the game, right? It did last year. It did in the college game. So we expect it to continue, especially with the stands of Caitlin Clark and the defenders of Angel Reese, right? Constantly battling one another. I'm expecting to see that. But also, how do they dominate on the court again? Rookie year, it was good, but did you set the bar a little too high? Are there going to be unfair expectations of these 2 players? So again, I'm curious how the rivalry will look going forward, because last year it did well. Going forward, I expected to do fine. But again, fans are tricky sometimes. You never know. But Angel Reese versus Caitlin Clark, I'm definitely tuning in. You won't want to miss it. But let's move on up to the next one, which is Caitlin Clark versus Paige Bueckers. Ladies and gentlemen, specifically games 3 and photo. Okay. Like, I don't want to watch, or I'm going to watch the entire series. Don't get me wrong, but it's the later games that I want to pay attention to, because I'm gonna give Paige that little grace period right early on. But if she also falters badly enough, I can't count that one. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got to be fair. But if it's a close battle early on and then Paige wins out, all right, cool. I'm gonna definitively say, yeah, Paige is better. But and there's proof to back that up. If I can't say that though, well, that's tough. Also, the WNBA, I'm quite positive, wants to make this a rivalry matchup. Think about this. We can talk about, is Paige ready, right? We can talk about how Caitlin Clark, is she outclassed? We got to remember, Paige Bueckers has always been rated higher than Caitlin Clark without injury. As a player, that might hit your head a little bit. That might hit your psyche. So I'm definitely going to be paying attention, not just this season, to the end of time, till these girls retire. This is going to be a rivalry that we want to watch and pay attention to. I'm telling y'all right now. But, ladies and gentlemen, don't even need to worry about this, because I've been talking about this for years. Hell, this ain't my commercial at one, to be honest with y'all. So let's move on from this one, right? Oh, by the way, they are the last 2 number 1 picks. It's a good battle. But let's move on from this one to the number 3 matchup, which is, in fact, the Liberty versus Aces. Because, again, they top dogs. Like, they top dogs in the WNBA. Like, we've seen that they're the defending champions over the last 3 years. These two teams. What else you want? What else do you? Like, I wanted to put them higher. Like, I wanted to put them above the Liberty versus Lynx. I really did, because the Aces have a lot of talent, and I think a lot of people want to see the Liberty versus Aces. So you got Jewel Lloyd. She's on a redemption tour. But like I said, ladies and gentlemen, number 2 is, in fact, Liberty versus Lynx. So this was last year's finals matchup, and it went the distance, a game 5, and it was an exciting one. And we have one of the best players in the game in Napheesa Collier going up against Brianna Stewart. And now, hey, if the Lynx get a little bit more help, like if Diamond Miller comes back and is the player that I think she is, maybe the Lynx make a little bit more noise. They're a little deeper now. So again, 3-2, they got a little history there. And that's why they're here for me. But my number one, ladies and gentlemen, my number one matchup that I got to watch, it is Stewie versus Fee versus Asia. Listen, if y'all have not watched basketball, the WNBA, you know, like if you're not a fan, if you started watching basketball last year, you're a casual fan to me. I'm sorry. So with that being said, these 3 girls, these 3 women, faces of the WNBA. And I gotta watch those matchups at all times. I don't care what I'm doing. More often than not, I'm gonna watch it. There's only a few things that's gonna make me not watch the game. I'm sorry. I'll play it back then a little later. That's what I'll say. There's only a few things that make me not watch these 3 girls get a bucket. I'll tell you that right now. So again, my top matchup, the 3 best women in the WNBA. If I see the game on, best believe you know what I'm doing. But again, ladies and gentlemen, these are my top 10 matchups. And again, I said that some of these were I could have mentioned Kelsey Plum and going up against and I guess Dearica and Hamby, although Kelsey Plum happened this year. But I could have said Kelsey Plum returning to the Aces, right? In the return games. It means a little bit more though, because I'm a Sparks fan as well. That's why I had to separate it, ladies and gentlemen. But overall, I think these were good ones. So you can say there's a little bias to it, just a little bit. But I'm curious what your thoughts were. So if y'all have other matchups that I missed, definitely comment below and let me know, and I can see what y'all thinking. But I greatly appreciate everyone for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Please make sure to like, subscribe. Oops, hold on. I'm sorry. Let me do that again. Please make sure to like, subscribe, comment, tell anyone about the show. My name is Trey. I'm the host of Get a Bucket. I hope you all are having a good one. Take care.